The shy girl knelt beside the printer, coaxing its stubborn tray open in the middle of a crowded office. No one noticed except the quiet IT guy in the corner, the one who once sold a tech company for 9 figures. She thought she was invisible. But he saw the things no one else cared to, and when he offered a quiet invitation, she had to choose: stay tucked inside her silence, or step out and change a small corner of the world. Because sometimes, the one who truly sees you is the last person you'd ever expect. Mornings at the office were never truly quiet, but not loud enough to drown out the wheezing protest of the ancient printer, coughing, stuttering, grumbling as though the weight of a tired world had been jammed into its paper tray. Emma sat by the window, her ceramic mug, painted with a sleepy-eyed cat, still swirling with the faint steam of chamomile tea. She took a sip, her gaze drifting toward the hallway between 2 rows of desks where the dying printer groaned. No one moved. Everyone was busy, or pretending to be. A quick glance, a resigned grimace, and then fingers returned to keyboards, eyes to phones as if the crumpled paper wedged inside the machine belonged to another realm. She set the mug down and rose. No one stopped her. No one offered help. The printer let out a final heavy grunt, then fell silent. She knelt beside it, opening the tray with practiced care. The air smelled of hot plastic and thick ink. Her fingers, accustomed to tightening screws and cleaning dusty filters at home, found the jam without hesitation, a sliver of paper, crumpled and defiant, wedged deep between 2 rollers. She exhaled quietly, slid her hand in, slowly, steadily, and pulled, click. A sound no louder than a sigh. The printer restarted with a soft hum. A green light blinked to life. Emma didn't smile. She simply closed the cover, adjusted the tray, stood up. Brushing ink-smudged fingers against her sleeve, she walked back to her desk. No one thanked her. One person even sighed in irritation at the interruption. Another leaned over to ask if their print job had gone through, without so much as a glance in her direction. Except for one man in the corner, she felt him before she saw him. He sat 3 rows away, half concealed behind a low divider, headphones on, laptop aglow with streams of code and shifting graphs. But his eyes, quiet, still as a lake at dawn, had never left her. There was no intrusion in his gaze, no dissection, just presence. Gentle as a passing breeze, clear as sunlight slipping through morning frost on glass. She blinked, looked away. Emma had never spoken to him. In 6 months at this job, everyone called him the IT guy. Soft-spoken, barely there, surfacing only when the network collapsed, or the printer reached some unsalvageable low. No one knew his name. No one had asked. He was part of the system, like the network cables beneath their feet, essential but invisible. She sat again. Her hands trembled faintly, not from fear, from the unfamiliar ache of being seen. The morning unwound like a reel of slow film. The buzz of phones, the tap of keys, HR's laughter in the far corner, the rush of mouse clicks. Emma worked as always, verifying spreadsheets, adjusting forms, answering emails, but her mind kept circling back to that moment, that look, light as air, yet unshakable. By noon, the office had thinned. Most wandered off for lunch. Emma stayed, retrieving a small bento from her bag. She ate slowly at her desk, eyes drifting across the window's blur, then, without meaning to, toward the IT desk. Empty. The swivel chair still, the screen dark, as though he had never been there. She exhaled. The afternoon passed. Routine persisted. More tasks, more Slack pings, more polite avoidance from co-workers. Nothing cruel, but enough to make her feel like a misplaced puzzle piece in a near-finished picture. At 5:30, the office stirred. Chairs scraped, goodbyes floated. Emma remained, fingers finishing the last line of a report. Her vision blurred slightly. The overhead lights shifted to their evening dim. A message popped up on her screen. Quick work on the printer today. Impressive. K. She froze. No. One had ever messaged her like that. She hovered her mouse over the name Kate. No avatar, no signature, just a single letter, but her heart beat faster. Kate, was him? The IT guy. She glanced at his desk. Still empty. Maybe it was just the flicker of the lights or the hush of the heating vents, but something passed through the room, a quiet current, and she smiled. For the first time that day, maybe that jammed paper had been the start of something, small, but enough for a quiet heart to begin to listen again. She didn't expect anything more from the message. Just one line, no emojis, no small talk, but it lingered, like the echo of a wordless song. The next morning, Emma arrived earlier than usual. The office was still half lit, shadows pooling where the lights hadn't warmed. She sat, rolled up her sleeves, powered on her computer. The tea hadn't been brewed. Her eyes were still tired, but inside her, something flickered, small, like dust caught in a shaft of early sunlight. She opened the expense report she'd been working on, last month's cost breakdown. She'd spent all yesterday refining it, but something felt off. Her eyes skimmed the totals column, then stopped. A line had been changed. The final total was more accurate than her version. She frowned, checked the edit history. One adjustment, one username. She sat up straighter. It couldn't be a coincidence. She remembered locking the file. Only someone with higher access could have made that change, and the only one was him. She looked around. He was already there. Somehow. Same as always. Headphones on, the glow of the screen soft against his cheek, fingers tapping in a quiet, steady rhythm. From where she sat, his face was obscured, just a dark sweep of hair falling across his forehead and that slight hunch of his back, as if he were listening to the world without ever needing to speak. She typed a quick message. Thanks for correcting the total in the expense report. I didn't notice the mistake. No reply, her heart dipped. Then she reasoned he was busy. Maybe he wasn't the chatty type. Maybe she'd read too much into it. It was nothing. Just a line in a file. At lunch, while others filed out, Emma stayed behind and made a fresh cup of tea. She pulled out her phone and opened the internal employee directory, typed Huing. No results. She tried again. K. Huing. Koi. Kevin. Kai. Nothing. No photo, no name, no email. Not even an employee ID. A chill crept along her spine. Emma wasn't one to pry. But his precision, the way he knew which file she'd need, the fact that no one seemed to know his name, the way the system held no trace of him, began to unsettle her. Why would someone so skilled choose to stay so silent, so unseen? That afternoon, she found herself watching him more closely. When the manager walked past and asked the tech team about the system outage, every head turned to him. He didn't speak, just nodded, opened his laptop, and resolved it in under 2 minutes. Emma caught the manager's startled look, but he said nothing, just nodded back and walked away. He didn't ask for praise. Didn't expect acknowledgement. She remembered herself in the early weeks of this job, pushing twice as hard just to be noticed, desperate to prove she wasn't invisible. Eventually, she'd learned to shrink back, like a seed waiting for a season that hadn't yet come. Maybe he had too. Before leaving, Emma tidied her desk and gathered the courage to thank him in person. But when she turned, his chair was already empty, screen dark, headphones neatly coiled. She hadn't seen him leave, and she was sure she'd been paying attention. A strange feeling stole over her. Not fear, just something. Didn't add up. Who was he? Why did no one mention him? And why did thinking about that make her heart feel oddly unsteady? That night in her small apartment, Emma opened her laptop, typed into LinkedIn. K. Huing. No results. She tried again. IT. Phoenix Corp. Tech support Phoenix. Quiet it guy. Only vague articles. No faces. No trail. She sat there a long time, staring at the blank screen. Something inside her stirred, a quiet opening like a door she hadn't known existed. It wasn't curiosity for its own sake. It was something else. Maybe, for the first time in her life, someone had seen her, truly seen her, and responded. in a way that was quiet, unassuming, but undeniably real. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe tomorrow he'd be gone. Maybe he was just a program, an algorithm designed to catch errors and auto-message based on behavioral triggers. But she knew his eyes had been real. Emma arrived at the office with a strange sensation lodged in her chest. Not quite anxiety, not curiosity either, more like a quiet thrum beneath her ribs, as if something long hidden was beginning to take shape, though she hadn't yet found a name for it. Her chamomile tea sat on her desk, sending up its usual soft warmth. She didn't drink it right away. Her eyes found the corner of the room, his corner. Today he wore a plain grey sweater, sleeves neatly rolled to the elbows, revealing slender wrists and a simple black watch without a brand. Everything about him was understated, untraceable. Yet somehow, he always stood out. She waited a moment before getting up. Her heart tapped gently against her chest as she walked toward him, clutching a file like a passport, something to justify crossing the threshold of her own hesitation. He was staring at his screen, lines of code flowing like a river. She stopped beside him, pretending to glance at the monitor before speaking, her voice soft. "What is that?" He tilted his head slightly, not surprised, as though he'd known she would come. "Server data analysis. Each color reflects a different system state." His voice was low, measured, not cold. Emma nodded. She didn't fully understand, but enough to recognize this wasn't the work of a typical office IT guy. On the screen was a monitoring system she'd never seen before, a logo in the lower left corner, a white arc outlined in blue with the words K-Arcos beside it. She frowned slightly. "What's K-Arcos?" He didn't look at her. He typed a few more lines before answering slowly. "An internal operating system, not released publicly." "From our company?" she asked, leaning a little, trying to read the text in the corner. He paused, then pointed gently to the screen. From a group I used to work with." Her chest dropped a beat, like a melody gone momentarily off key. He wasn't lying, but he wasn't telling the whole truth either. "Do you have a profile in the employee system?" she asked, half teasing, half serious. This time he met her gaze, and no deflection, no retreat. Just a silent look, long enough to make her feel her breath shift inside her chest. "Not everyone needs a profile," he said, then turned back to the screen. Emma stood still, fingers resting lightly on the edge of her folder. Something was cracking open inside her, not fear, not confusion, but a kind of sweet uncertainty. The curiosity had morphed into something else, not suspicion, something quieter. Like realizing you'd stepped into a story you never knew was waiting for you. That afternoon, when the office emptied for lunch, she returned to his desk. He was gone. The laptop remained open, its screen locked. She didn't mean to intrude. But her eyes landed on a tiny sticker tucked inside the machine's lid, worn faded silver, with just 3 letters, K-Ch, K-Ch, a signature, a hidden name. Back at her desk, she opened her laptop and once more searched the internal system for K-H, still no results. She turned to Google, typed K-H Tech Founder, K-H Startup, K-H AI System. One article surfaced. She froze. Kevin Hume, the young founder behind the K-Arcos system, acquired in a 9-figure deal in 2019. He has since withdrawn from public life. Her heart stalled. She read the article again, looked at the name. Kevin. K. She closed her eyes. The familiarity surged back. His gaze, his silence, the way he never tried to prove anything. He wasn't just E.T. He was someone who had stepped off the summit and chosen to return, to live quietly, unseen. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She didn't know why. Maybe because of the discovery, maybe because of him, or maybe because for the first time she felt an uncanny sense of kinship between two people, one who had learned to hide after being overlooked, and one who had chosen to disappear. After being seen too much, she opened her laptop and drafted a message. "I think I just found an old article. You don't need to reply. I just wanted to say Thank you for seeing me. Before I ever saw myself, she didn't send it, just saved it as a draft, then smiled to herself. Because sometimes a quiet question is all it takes to open a secret, and maybe even a new path inside your own heart. That day the air softened early. A light that belonged to no particular season settled over the office, quiet, steady, as if nothing unusual was happening. But inside Emma, every tick of the clock rang out like a bell waiting to be answered. The message arrived at 11:48 a.m. Would you like to take a walk with me during lunch? Mate, no emoji, no preamble. But her heart skipped, loud and certain. She typed back, okay. It wasn't like her to leave the office midday. She usually ate at her desk, quickly, efficiently, then went back to her tasks. But today, she slipped on her coat, carried her tea and stepped outside with him, through the glass doors at the back of the lobby, into the small garden behind the building. The grass was freshly cut. The sky was pale, overcast but bright. Birds skimmed low across the trees. They walked side by side, unhurried. Neither spoke at first. And strangely, the silence didn't feel awkward. Kevin walked with his hands in his coat pockets. She noticed he hadn't brought his phone, didn't check a watch. As if this world right here was enough. Finally, he spoke. There was a time I worked at a company where no one remembered my name. For 2 years. His voice was like a breeze threading through the leaves. Emma tilted her head slightly, unsure what to say, but Kevin didn't wait for a response. I rewrote their entire back-end system, streamlined operations, reduced error rates by over 60%, but no one knew it was me. The reports went under someone else's name. I didn't say anything. He paused, nudged a pebble with his shoe. I thought if the work was good, it would speak for itself. Emma nodded slowly. Inside her, something stirred, an emotion she hadn't expected. Not pity, understanding. So few people ever said that out loud. The feeling of pouring yourself into something quietly, completely, only to receive nothing in return. No recognition, not even a glance back. She whispered, I understand. He turned to her, his gaze, warm but not pitying. He didn't look at her as someone fragile, but as someone familiar. A mirror. I used to be like you, he said, quietly, clearly. Emma didn't reply right away. She looked down at her hand holding the tea bottle, the same hand that had trembled when her manager pointed out a small mistake, the hand that had worked twice as hard just to be seen as simply enough. Sometimes I think, she began, her voice barely audible, maybe I'm just not good enough. That's why no one notices. Kevin shook his head. It's not that. Sometimes you just need one person who sees you clearly. Just then, a leaf drifted down onto her shoulder. She didn't brush it off. A breeze passed through, light and lingering. The moment held between them, two people who had once been overlooked, now quietly illuminating each other with a rare kind of light. Recognition. She lifted her eyes to him. She didn't ask anything more. She didn't have to. He smiled, a small smile barely there, but enough to ease a weight she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. When they returned to the office, she no longer saw him the way she had. Before, not just the quiet IT guy, but a person, someone who had walked the same road she was on now, and who understood enough not to explain, but simply to be there. That night, Emma opened a new report. At the bottom of the file, she added a note. Thank you for sharing and for seeing me. She didn't send it. Just saved it. A quiet keepsake, like the way a leaf lands on your shoulder. Not for anyone, not needing to be witnessed. But still, somehow, it touches you. A week after that walk, the office no longer felt so quiet to Emma. Not because her co-workers had changed. They still laughed without including her, still forgot her name in meetings, still left her alone with the end-of-week data checks. But something was different now. There was a presence, steady, wordless, that lived in the quiet gaze from the far corner of the room. Kevin didn't speak much, but every time she opened her laptop, tweaked an Excel formula, or double-checked, A report, a message would arrive, precise, timely, never a word too many. It felt less like surveillance, more like someone standing quietly behind her in a crowd, ready to catch whatever might slip. Friday, 4 p.m. As the office stirred with the beginnings of the weekend, Kevin messaged, "If you have a few minutes, meet me on the rooftop. I have something to tell you." Her heart jumped. The rooftop was hardly ever used, a quiet space with a few wooden benches and planters full of mint and rosemary. When she stepped out, the late afternoon light had turned honey gold. He stood by the railing, wind lifting strands of his hair. She walked toward him. He didn't turn until she was beside him. Then he spoke, as if he were sharing a memory of little importance. "I used to run a tech company." Emma stayed silent. The wind brushed a sprig of rosemary against her wrist. "We built an analytic operating system. It was acquired, for a lot of money. Then I left, not because I failed, I just didn't want to be a brand anymore." She turned to him. For the first time, he didn't look like the quiet IT guy. He looked like a man laying down the map of his life, line by line, without embellishment, without regret. "I came. Here applied as a technician. No resume, no LinkedIn, just to slow down, to remember what I started this for." Her chest tightened. She didn't know what to say. All the vague questions she'd once asked herself about him didn't feel vague anymore. And the most surprising thing wasn't the money. It was the simplicity in his telling. Kevin looked at her then. His eyes had softened. "Lately I've been building again, a non-profit project, a basic tech platform for older adults. They don't need AI. They need to know how to email, video call, save photos of their grandkids." She nodded, lips pressing into a line. "I want you to work with me." The invitation didn't feel like an opportunity. It felt like a key. Light, but capable of opening a door to something entirely new. Emma clenched her hands. She wasn't good at changes, not fast ones. And inside her, a small voice, the one shaped by years of being overlooked, screamed, "Don't trust it. Don't hope. Don't step out." "I'm not sure," she said, voice trembling. He didn't press. "I understand. You don't have to answer now, but if you can, believe that you're worth choosing, not just because someone sees you, but because you are." She looked down. Refusing a gift had never felt so much like grief. She walked away, her thoughts in a tangle. He didn't call after her. By the time she reached the elevator, her hands were still shaking. That night, in her small room, she opened her phone. The article about Kevin was still there. His photo, younger, in a suit, eyes sharp under the lights of a tech conference. She glanced at the reflection in her screen. Her own face, hair loosely tied, faint shadows beneath her eyes, a gaze. No longer afraid, but uncertain. She set the phone down, asked herself why someone like him would choose someone like her. And why? Saying no had left her feeling like she'd lost something she wasn't ready to lose. 3 days had passed since their conversation on the rooftop. Emma hadn't received a single message from Kevin, no reminders, no follow-ups. And yet, everything felt louder than ever. The printer's recurring error chimes, the disjointed chatter of co-workers, and above all the silence from the corner where he still sat each day. She thought of him constantly. In the quiet moments, while adjusting a spreadsheet, she wondered, he'd probably have a cleaner way to do this. When someone complained about the network, she glanced at him, calm as ever, resolving it without a word. When someone brushed past her without noticing, she remembered his gaze, the way he saw her when no one else did. And then she realized his silence wasn't distance, it was space. Space for her to choose, freely, without pressure. On Tuesday night, she passed a small bookstore. The warm yellow lights glowed through the windows, the scent of old pages and coffee curling into the entrance. A book on a nearby shelf caught her eye. Sometimes the quiet ones build the loudest things. She didn't pick it up and just looked at the title and smiled. At home, she reopened the draft she'd once written to Kevin. "I think I just found an old article. You don't need to reply, but I want to say thank you for seeing me before I ever saw myself." This time she edited it. "If the offer still stands, I'm ready to try." Not because I know I'll be good, but because I don't want fear to keep stopping me anymore. And this time, as she hit send, the next morning Kevin was there, quiet as always. But when she walked into the office, his eyes lifted briefly toward her. He gave a small nod. No message, no confirmation, but she knew he understood. That afternoon, at a little cafe near the office, set up with a single-line chat invitation, he opened his laptop and showed her the first sketch of the project. Simple interface, gentle colors, large buttons, clear icons. Everything designed for the elderly, for those unsure around tech but still needing connection to their children, their friends, the world. "You'll handle the content, right?" he asked, eyes still on the screen. She nodded. "I think I can write the guides in a way that's easy to follow. And if we need to test it, I can ask my mom." He smiled, just barely. "Good." No contract was signed, no handshake exchanged, but between them was something steadier than words, like a tree beginning from a seed that had been waiting, buried deep, for a long time. Later. Back. So in the office, nothing around her seemed different. Co-workers passed her like they always did. No one noticed the small light that had just been lit inside her, but she felt it. Steady. Certain. Kevin didn't say anything else. But before leaving, he left a small folded note on her desk. Handwritten, plain. "You don't need to be anyone else to do something meaningful. Just be yourself." She picked it up, folded it carefully. For the first time, she truly believed, not defensively, not doubtfully, that she wasn't just chosen. She was worthy of being chosen. She had stepped out of the shadow. Not loudly, not all at once, but with a quiet nod from within, and that was enough. Emma opened the file while the sky was still soft with mist. The office hushed, with only two people in their usual places. Her, by the window, him, in the far corner. No greetings were exchanged, no glances needed. Just a quiet, shared ritual, screens lighting up, and the two of them stepping into a different space, one without deadlines or KPIs, only the quiet urge to do something that felt right. The homepage of the site appeared in pale blue, its layout gentle, the buttons large and round marked with simple, recognizable icons, a camera for take photo, a notebook for notes, a phone for video call. At the top, in soft cursive, the name Home for You, like a whisper, not a headline. Emma studied each detail, not because it was beautiful, but because she knew it was built for people the world often forgot. She sent back a message. The background. "Color is lovely, I like it. Maybe we could add a small welcome message under the logo. Something like welcome home. It makes the user feel seen." 5 minutes later, his reply came, "Good ideas," added, scrolling text, "Welcome home, where everything begins simply." She smiled. For the first time in weeks, she felt she wasn't just working, but living inside the words she wrote. Midweek, they held their first demo test. Not in a boardroom, but in a quiet cafe with good Wi-Fi and an elderly barista named Martha, who always greeted people by name. Kevin handed Martha a tablet. Emma sat beside her, watching as she tapped the video call button. The screen lit up, clear, uncluttered, no ads, no fuss. "Oh, that's easy," Martha said, her eyes brightening. "I always thought I was too old for this stuff." Emma looked at Kevin. He only smiled faintly. On the walk back, she said softly, "I don't think I've ever seen someone's face light up like that over a button." He didn't answer, but in his eyes she could see it, an unspoken knowing. Together, they had laid the first stone of something that mattered. The next afternoon, while Emma was editing the FAQ section, a co-worker, Jason, from marketing, walked past her desk and stopped at Kevin's. He spoke in a tone that tried to be casual, amused. "You and Emma seem like some kind of secret alliance lately, working on something fun." Kevin looked up, his expression steady, not cold. "Just clear, we're building a website to help older people use technology more easily." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Really? And why her?" Kevin paused, then answered, Not loudly, not softly, just as if stating a simple fact, because she sees what the rest of you don't. Jason chuckled, shrugged, walked away. Emma, having heard every word from her desk, didn't turn around. But inside her, something shifted. A short sentence, but it felt like armor, forged for a lifetime of being overlooked. That evening, she opened the demo page on her phone and stared at the soft scrolling words. Welcome home, where everything begins simply, she added a note. Maybe the homepage could play a soft sound like wind chimes, like a reminder that someone's waiting, someone remembers you. Not long after, his reply came. I'll make it chime like the door of a small shop, just as you walk in and someone looks up and smiles. She put the phone down. Quietly. No one at the company knew what they were building. No one needed to, because sometimes something big begins with a single design and a gaze deep enough to see what others never thought to look for. On the day the website quietly went live, it rained. There was no launch party, no banners, no company-wide announcement, just a simple line on the demo page, welcome home. Emma sat in the office, watching the visitor count rise, slowly, steadily. 17, then 24, then 41, most from outlying areas from old iPads and budget tablets. A few came from public library IPs. She hadn't expected much, but each number felt like a heartbeat, real, measured, enough to know they were reaching. Someone somewhere. Kevin sat in his usual spot. He said nothing, as always. But Emma knew he was watching the same dashboard on a different screen, in a world they now co-created. That afternoon, the company threw a small celebration for the quarter's results. Soft music floated from the speakers. Bottled sodas, bagels, a few chilled Proseccos lined a plastic table. People clustered, laughing, swapping KPI jokes, gossiping about management, thumbing through their phones when conversation thinned. Emma stood by the window, water in hand, gaze drifting across the room. Jason was laughing with the marketing. HR hovered near the snacks, chatting about an upcoming team-building trip. No one mentioned the new website. No one knew she had poured her heart into something quiet and unnamed, with someone just as quiet, just as unnamed. She turned toward Kevin's desk. Empty. She stepped into the hallway, looked around. No sign of him, only his chair. Gently swiveling, screen off, headphones placed with care. She returned to her seat, the hush so complete she could hear the ceiling fan turning. Then her phone buzzed. One message, from an unsaved number. Not everyone sees you, but I do. She stared at the words for a long time. She didn't reply, she didn't need to, because she understood. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a final affirmation that even if the world ignored her, forgot her name, overlooked the details of her quiet work, there had been someone from the very beginning who saw her, clearly, fully, truly. That night, she logged into the website again. In the admin panel, under anonymous notes, a space for users to leave. Messages without names, there was a new entry. Thank you for creating this place. I used it to call my daughter today for the first time in 2 years. Just one button, but it opened a door. A dad, 63. Emma pressed her hand to her chest. Her heart beat slow, steady. Then she smiled, because she knew it had all been worth it. No spotlight. No applause out just being seen by one person and finding a place to do something right, no matter how small, no matter how quiet. And that journey had begun with a piece of paper jammed in a printer. Have you ever felt unseen, even while giving your quiet best? If this story moved you, leave a like to lift up those who shine silently, and hit subscribe so you won't miss more tender, quiet journeys like this, because sometimes just one person seeing you is enough to change your whole world.